don't know whether you have noticed, but I have done a few nods to the Powerless series in the filming vicinity. See if you can spot all of them and put the amount into the comments below. Now, obviously, you'll probably do better if you have read some of the books already, but I may also swap some item out when I switch books, so keep your eye out. Some are a little more obvious, and some are a bit of a stretch, I'll give you. Hello everyone, this video I read the entire Powerless series, so this includes Powerless, obviously, Powerful, the novella which comes straight after Powerless and is in the same timeline as the books, Reckless, and then finally the most recent release, Fearless. Now, am I the only one, when you say the word or think the word fearless, you just think of Taylor Swift and the song? Or is that just me? Don't worry, I will not sing you the song. No one deserves that. If you only want to see my review for Fearless, or in fact any of the other books in the series, then I have put chapters in the video, so please do feel free to skip to the relevant chapter. Otherwise, here we go. I do like how all the books have these pretty illustrations, and on each chapter page, if I can get there, they have them as well, and that is in all these books. So the first book in the Powerless series is Powerless. Shockingly, I know. First off, it's called the Powerless Trilogy. But with the novella Powerful, that's 4 books. Just so. Do they not include novellas in the series? Let me know in the comments below if you know. Powerless is set in a kingdom called Ilya. Here is an illustration from within the book showing the kingdom. Years ago, Ilya had a plague which killed a lot of the people in the kingdom. And following the plague, a lot of people started to develop powers. For example, a blazer can manipulate flames, a bloom can manipulate plants and flora, for example. These people are called elites. There are also different levels of power for usefulness, etc. The people who did not develop powers are called ordinaries. The ordinaries were banished from Ilya for transmitting disease throughout the kingdom. This was known as the Purge. After the Purge, any ordinaries found in Ilya are slaughtered so they cannot spread disease. Paedyn Grey is one of the main characters in the Powerless series, and she is an ordinary, hence the title Powerless within the book, because she doesn't have any powers. She currently lives on the streets in a place called Lut, which is within Ilya, with her best friend Adina. Paedyn obviously hides mostly within the shadows, so not to draw attention to herself because she doesn't have a power. She claims to be a psychic, which is a very low power on the scale, so people don't suspect that she's an ordinary and obviously slaughter her, kill her. Both Paedyn and Adina have different ways they contribute to survive. Adina sews clothes to sell to other people within the kingdom, and Paedyn is a skilled thief, so she tries to steal from others basically for food or money. One day, Paedyn inadvertently saves one of the kingdom's princes from being badly hurt or killed. This leads to her being voted to take part in what is known as the Purging Trials. The trials are a celebration of the purging of the ordinaries from Ilya back in the day, and are a series of trials where the elites can showcase their powers basically and their wits to win. Unfortunately, not everyone will survive. The prince Paedyn saved is called Kai. He's also one of the main points of view as well as Paedyn, and he is also taking part within the trials as well. Kai is an enforcer, and his job is to kill basically any ordinaries found within the kingdom. So what happens when Paedyn starts to develop feelings for Kai, when his sole purpose is to destroy people like her? So what are some of the good points of the book? The story is mainly told from both Paedyn and Kai's perspectives. Paedyn is an ordinary, and Kai's job as the enforcer is to kill any ordinaries within the kingdom, so you can't really get any more suspenseful than that. So it really does have high stakes, especially when they are thrown into the purging trials together, especially as not everyone is expected to survive. When you add their blossoming feelings, it's just like a melting pot full of tension. Paedyn is pretending to have powers, so she isn't killed for being an ordinary, basically. She pretends to be psychic, but worries that she's going to be found out any time, and with all eyes on the contestants in the Paedyn trials, it's much more likely to happen than not. Especially, even if she did have the powers of being a psychic, that's one of the lowest levels of powers she could have, so it's not very useful in comparison to some of the other opponents. All the contestants want to win the trials, and not everyone has an issue with killing the other contestants to win. There's possible romance with 2 male characters within the book. There's royalty in the book. For example, Kai is a prince. Both Paedyn and Kai are likeable characters and have interesting backstories. I like the background of the Kingdom Ilya and how the elites got their powers. It was really intriguing to read. Also, the fact there are different powers and usefulness of the powers is really interesting too. And here are some of the things I didn't necessarily enjoy within the book. I couldn't help but see a lot of similarities between Powerless and the Hunger Games. The trials really reminded me of the games. Paedyn is also good with a bow and arrow, just like Katniss is. Now, obviously, I'm sure you could probably say this about a lot of books, and it is probably because I have most recently read the newest release of the Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping. I've done a video of that as well if you want to check it out. However, the issue is you can't help comparing them. So, for example, within the Hunger Games, they have really high stakes where you know only one person is going to survive in the games, whereas within Powerless, there's a possibility you could be killed, sure, but it's not a necessity to win the trials. I did find there was quite a lot of repetition in the book. For example, it felt like there was a dagger to someone's throat a lot of the time, and it was mentioned so much it actually got quite annoying, if I'm perfectly honest. It felt like some things were just too much, like the hateful banter when you really know they like each other. Now, I'm not saying don't include moments like that, but just less and refine it a bit more to make it a bit more intriguing.
Here are some of my favourite quotes from Powerless. This girl might be the death of me, literally. I am no one's pawn. He looks at me, through me, waiting for an answer. His grey eyes are like chips of ice, shards of glass. Like both, his gaze is pointed and piercing, cold yet captivating, beautiful in the way only deadly things can be. A king who doesn't know his people cannot be a king for his people.
All in all, I did enjoy reading Powerless. I really enjoyed the lore, the high stakes, the possible romances, but I also feel with a bit of fine tuning it could have been even more compelling. So I rated the book a 4.25 stars. If you have enjoyed my review of Powerless so far, please push the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. So the next book in the series is Powerful. Please note from this point onwards, natural plot lines may be spoilers, so you have been warned. Also, I have added some other accessories or changed some things in regards to this book. See if you can notice what they are. I will let you know towards the end of the video. Powerful is a novella that focuses on Paedyn's best friend Adina from the point Paedyn is selected to take part in the trials up to the end of the Paedyn trials. It is told from Adina's point of view, but also someone called Mac or Makoto, who is someone she meets during that period of time. Makoto wants Adina's help with a secret mission, but is there more to the story than he's letting on? So what are some of the good points within the book? There are illustrations again within the book, the same map that we have seen in Powerless of the Kingdom of Ilya, but also for reference some of the powers and the usefulness of the powers, which I think would have been quite useful within Powerless, if I'm honest, but it was good to have it here. I really liked both the main characters in the book. Adina is so sunny and Makoto is drawn to her, and you understand why. He is sweet too, and he really looks out for her. Now, obviously, we already know what happens within the Paedyn trials from Paedyn's point of view, but it is nice to have it from Adina's perspective too. And here are some of the things I didn't necessarily enjoy within the book. You could argue the book is not needed, as we know how the Persian trials end. I, however, did really like the point of view from Adina and what she did within those weeks without Paedyn there, so I liked it. Spoiler alert, I did cry reading it. I won't say anything else, but I did think the ending of the book was written beautifully. I did find certain parts were lacking in depth or weren't fully fleshed out, but it is only a novella, so I do understand why certain parts weren't gone into too much, but I personally would have liked it a little bit more.
Here are some of my favourite quotes from Powerful. May you all bring honour to your kingdom, your family, and yourself. See the world however you like, but at least watch your step while you do it. I kiss him like it's the end of a fairy tale.
Overall, I flew through the book. I found it really sweet and some parts were really written beautifully. I enjoyed reading it and I rated it a 3.25 stars, bearing in mind it is only a novella, so that's quite good for a novella. And so on to book number 2 in the series, Reckless. Yet again, natural plot lines might spoil things for you if you have not yet read up to this point in the Powerless series, but I will try to avoid spoilers as much as I can without avoiding the natural plot lines. Reckless is like an immediate follow-on after the ending of Powerless, the Persian trials within Powerless. Paedyn is on the run, and Kai's mission as the enforcer is to track her down and bring her back to the king. The book again is mostly split between Paedyn and Kai's point of view, with the odd chapter from Kit, Kai's brother. As Paedyn is on the run, we get to see new areas of the kingdom, like Dor and the Scorches. But who are the people of Dor going to help? A girl with a bounty on her head, or a prince whose family banished them to Dor in the first place? So what are some of the good points within the book? As well as the map to the kingdom as previous, Reckless also provides a family tree of royalty. Whilst I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary, I always love to have the illustrations in books for additional information. It makes it much more interesting and provides some insight into what the author had in mind whilst writing the books, and I love that. I still like all the main characters, and it was nice to be in a new environment and not in the same places that we already know. Plus, it's not exactly a welcoming environment, which makes it a lot more intriguing. There is more of the backstory to the law of Ilya, which I love. There is suspense. Will Paedyn be caught by the enforcer? And if so, what will he do with her? And now on to some of the parts I didn't necessarily enjoy within the book. I didn't think this story was quite as interesting as the first book, so Powerless. Whilst there were definitely good parts in it, it just wasn't as exciting, unfortunately. Again, I found this book quite repetitive. Like Powerless, there was a lot of talk of knife to the throat, etc. Plus, there were a lot of similar situations that happened quite a few times. There was the banter, which was just a little bit too much all the time. Everything just felt like, again, just a little bit too much, and it verged on boring because of it, if that makes sense. Yet again, like Powerless, I found it a bit of a slog reading it. A bit of editing the repetitive parts down and a bit of polishing, and I feel like this could have been a lot better. I was a bit disappointed that Mac, or Makoto, who is the male character in Powerful, the novella, wasn't mentioned at all in Reckless. I wanted to see him in some sort of capacity in the book.
Here are some of my favourite quotes from Reckless. Sleeping so soundly is scary when it's beside someone so willing to stab you in the back. You seem to be taking a lot of precautions for a mere ordinary. I think we both know that nothing about you is mere. I wonder how often the enforcer kneels before anyone. You're afraid of me. He meets my statement with a stare, steady but drawn out like a sigh. I'd be a fool not to fear something so fierce. I swallow. I know you not, a fool, that is. He stands then, holding my gaze, until he's the one looking down on me. Not anymore.
Overall, I found Reckless to be an interesting twist following the fallout after the Paedyn trials. We went new places and met some new and old characters, but I did feel like the book fell short again due to what I felt was repetitive situations or conversations with the two main characters. Again, just a bit of tweaking and polishing of the story, and it could have been a lot better. I rated Reckless 3.75 stars. And so, now on to the most recent release, Fearless. Again, I really love the design and the illustrations of the Powerless series. So this is Fearless. And as you can see, this is the world in the Powerless series. We can see more of it than we have before. Also, we have this beautiful silver cover design of the roses, a crown. Fearless by Lauren Roberts. Forever My Undoing. And I genuinely only saw this as I was looking at the cover for showing you this. Look at the beautiful cover illustration. Obviously, this is Paedyn. And I assume this is meant to be Kai here. Isn't that gorgeous? This is why I want to keep this book in particular, because it's just so pretty. Fearless is the third and final instalment in the Powerless trilogy. This is your friendly warning. There are going to be spoilers if you have not read up to the book in this series so far. Just due to the natural storylines, I would not be able to tell you anything if I avoided them, I'm afraid. I have also added some nods to this particular book that you might notice within the filming vicinity. I'm sure you can notice at least one of them straight off. Fearless starts immediately after the end of Reckless. Kit is Ilya's new king and wants Paedyn to be his queen. The idea is that people will embrace her as the new queen and unite the kingdom, which has become isolated from the other countries by only having elites in their kingdom, and they haven't been trading with the other kingdoms to protect Ilya from possible disease, etc. Kit feels the residents of the kingdom, especially in the slums, which is where Paedyn's from, will back Paedyn as the queen because she's one of them, and then the kingdom will become more united and prosper better. The other kingdoms are more likely to trade with Ilya as an ordinary queen, as they themselves are mostly ordinaries, and some of them were even banished from Ilya, so they don't particularly trust the royals or Ilya in general. As Paedyn is an ordinary, and one of her biggest wishes is to see a united Ilya, basically ordinaries and elites side by side, then she can definitely see the benefits of this idea. But can she really marry Kit when she has feelings for Kai, his brother? Will Kai let her go through with it? If he does, he loses her forever, and if he doesn't, he would be betraying not only his brother, Kit, but also his king and his kingdom. If Paedyn is to be crowned, then she has to complete 3 more trials, which are shaped from how the kingdom of Ilya is ruled. To be a great king, or queen in this circumstance, you must first be brave, benevolent, and brutal. Only then can you rule a great kingdom. So each trial must show one of those qualities: bravery, benevolence, as in kindness, and brutality. So will Paedyn choose to compete in the trials to unite Ilya, ordinaries and elite as one, and Ilya to prosper as a kingdom? Or will she choose her heart and betray the king and possibly sever families forever? So what are some of the good parts of the book? I feel like the writing has improved from the previous books in the series. It feels a little bit more polished and less repetitive. Please note, I'm not saying the writing was bad in the others by any means, but there was a definite improvement in my eyes in Fearless. You get more of a backstory from Edric, the former king of Ilya, and others. It was interesting to have a point of view from him as a character. You also get to see more of the world Ilya is part of. You get betrayals, love triangles, shocks. I like the epilogue as well. Makoto is back. I missed him not being in Reckless, and I felt it was actually quite a bad oversight to not include him, so I was really glad he came back within Fearless. But that does lead on to some of the bad points of the book. Mac is back, but his storyline of Fearless... Just one question, Lauren. Why did you do that? Some parts in the book I felt were a bit rushed to me and not explored enough. One of the characters' personalities felt very unlike them, and honestly I feel like the author did them dirty in this book. Another character who you think you've seen the last of actually appears later in the book, and it actually seems quite out of place and unexplained. I can't help wondering if perhaps there's going to be a spin-off in the works. I generally had a feeling about a few of the things that might happen in the book, and I was right about most of them, but not all of them.
Here are some of my favourite quotes from Fearless. "If you look like hell," he whispers with a sly grin, "then I'm fortunate to be going there." "My favourite colour is a shade of her, a slither of the vibrance she exudes, and I will gladly drown, gladly burn, gladly fall into those blue eyes until the day she looks at me for the last time." Being an ordinary is not what makes you weak, it's your heart. Power is a sickness that corrupts all those who get a taste.
Overall, I did enjoy reading Fearless. It was an interesting end to the trilogy, and I really liked the additional backstory / information of those characters. It was definitely exciting to read. I rated Fearless 4 stars. So let's look at the ratings I gave the books overall within the series. The best book in the series by star rating is Powerless at 4.25, Fearless at 4, Reckless at 3.75, and Powerful at 3.25. Please note it is only a novella though, and it's actually really funny because in a way Powerful was one of my favourite reads in the series. I absolutely flew through it. So to everybody who has stayed until the end, thank you very much. And this is the part where we will go over the little nods to the Powerless series that I have included in the video. I will do the Powerless one and Universal, the Powerless series first. So we have obviously the wig, because it is mentioned that Paedyn has silver hair. We have a silver ring that she wears on her thumb, which is her father's. I am also wearing a green dress because Paedyn wears a green dress within Powerless. Also, green is the royal colour of the Kingdom of Ilia. I am wearing silver boots. I don't know if you can see that. Also, we have the dagger to the throat. We have the bow and arrow, because she uses it within the Paedyn trials. Okay, now this is a bit of a stretch, I'll give you. I put this here for Kit, the guy's brother. Kitten. I know, it's a bit of a stretch, but we also have, I think there are birds mentioned within the Paedyn trials, as are snakes, definitely. We've got a sword, which again is mentioned within the Powerless series. And also I am sat on a grey / silver blanket. I don't know if you can see it. And then on to Powerful, because Adina mentions stars. I am wearing star earrings and a star necklace. And then for Reckless, I think most of them kind of apply. In particular, I would say probably the bow and arrow, because she uses that quite a bit within the book. And then on to Fearless. I'm wearing my lovely gold and green crown. Again, green is the colour of Ilia, the kingdom's colour. The wedding band is also mentioned because she may become the queen of the kingdom. And I think that is everything. I hope I've included everything. If I haven't, I will make a note in the comments if I remember any more. And yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed adding up the little nods to the series, and I hope you did well. I hope you have enjoyed this video on the Powerless trilogy. If you have read them all, which was your favourite within the series? Were there any disappointments, in particularly with Fearless for you, because it's the most recent? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you have liked the video, please press the thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks everybody, goodbye.